Hey friends, it's your pal Mike Shea from Sly Flourish, here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy GM Prep. In this weekly show, I go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my Sunday role-playing game. In this case, I am running the Shadowdark RPG, and we are running a campaign based on the Gloaming from Cursed Scroll 1. Shadowdark RPG and Cursed Scroll 1 are products of the Arcane Library. You can find links to those in the show notes. An outstanding old school feeling with new school mechanic sensibilities, very kind of grim and dark. Yeah, a little bit, a little grim and dark, but in sort of fun and wacky ways. And so I'll tell you now, having played 10 or so, 11 sessions or so, something like that of Shadowdark, I'm a big fan of Shadowdark. I think it's an outstanding system. I really enjoy it. It's been fun and interesting learning a new system and learning how to sort of embrace what the system wants you to embrace when you're running it, and seeing how that plays out has been really interesting. My players like it a lot. I haven't had any player come to me, none of the players that I've been running it for, none of them have come to me and said, I'm not sure if this is fun, but I might want to try something else. Nobody has said that yet. They're all like, no, this is great. We've had multiple character deaths and new characters that have come in. It's very swingy. I've talked about that what the dice roll matters a ton. Everything from your ability scores to what kind of character you're going to be, to whether you get hit or not, whether you were knocked out with a hit or not. All of that stuff makes a big, the treasure you pick up, the number of monsters you fight and encounter. There's so many areas where the dice dictate what happens. That has been a very interesting way to go. But I'm enjoying it very much, and we are now deep into our Gloaming campaign, and the characters just reached the Bittermold Keep, which is the central location in Cursed Scroll 1. Bittermold Keep is where the main villain's main drive of it. Bittermold Keep is here at area 702 on our hex map. I think I have the hex map in the other window right there. So you can see that is where we are. That's where we've begun. That's where we are now. The characters made their way from, I think they went straight from Druzilla's hut. Yeah, we'll talk about what happened, but they went straight from Druzilla's hut and then made their way across the land and got to Bittermold Keep and have just started crawling Bittermold Keep. So today's prep is going to be getting a deeper understanding of what is inside Bittermold Keep, getting our secrets together, doing all of the rest of the stuff that we do for lazy DMing in order to have lots of material for them to enjoy traveling through Bittermold Keep. This show, by the way, is thanks to Sly Flourish patrons of Sly Flourish. Patrons of Sly Flourish get all kinds of great stuff like the City of Arches sourcebook, Uncovered Secrets Volume 1 and 2, a bunch of exclusive adventures, a dedicated Discord server, a monthly Q&A, a whole bunch of tools to help you run your game, bunch of stuff you get for being a patron of Sly Flourish. And you can find a link to become a patron of Sly Flourish in the show notes. And to the patrons of Sly Flourish, thank you so much for your outstanding support. So last time we began the session right outside of the rotted tree with the tunnel that led to Druzilla's laboratories. And they had a new book in hand that they took from the witch Druzilla, who told them how to cure. The book had formulas for how to work with the strange curse of Mugdulblub. Mugdulblub is like this powerful creature of oozes and slimes. And they knew that using the book and with a pure essence of Mugdulblub, they could create a cure to Mugdulblub's curse. And they knew that the only place that they could get a pure sample of Mugdulblub is in Bittermold Keep. So they knew they had to go to Bittermold Keep. So I sort of railroaded them down to going to Bittermold Keep. But it was mostly because I felt that the time was right for them to get there. It's a level 1 adventure, a level 1 location, but really the levels don't matter too much in Shadowdark because everything, the math is so flat that even if they're 2 or 3 or 4, it'd still be just as challenging as it would be. If they were 7 or 8, it might not be, but if it's 2, 3, or 4, it is. And just kind of an interesting way that the math works out with Shadowdark. So they made their way to Bittermold Keep. So outside, they found, I rolled a random encounter, and it was Knights of St. Yidris. I rolled orcs again, but rather than, and the whole thing was like, there's a bunch of orcs, and they're about to cook a guy on a spit. And I'm like, I'm going to change that around, because that's, I'm not crazy about that idea. But I said, better would be that they're Knights of St. Yidris, including orcs, but also a human and a couple of others, who have captured one of the characters, because we had a new character who wasn't there previously that is here now. And they had captured that character, and they were going to burn him at the stake because he was cursed by Mugdulblub. And he has the curse. And so this idea that the Knights of St. Yidris are saying, like, look, the curse of Mugdulblub spreads. Everybody who's got it, we're just going to kill. And basically, us burning you at the stake is better than you succumbing to the curse. Have you seen what it does? And like, yeah, we saw what it does. It turns you into ooze zombies. We don't want to be ooze zombies. So, yeah, so we have to set you on fire. And like, well, that doesn't sound great either. So one of the other characters was brand new. One of the players had a brand new character because their character got burned to death in the previous session. So their character was a knight, and they had rolled a Knight of St. Yidris as their character type. So I was like, oh, that's cool. If you're a Knight of St. Yidris, what if you're like a fallen Knight of St. Yidris? You're kind of with them, but you know that what they're doing is terrible. And this is your chance to like get away. So it was a little tense situation. So they fought the Knights of St. Yidris. I had them fight an actual knight. So I had like a couple of bandits and a knight. And they fought the knight, and the knight was kicking their ass. And the knight's only like a level 2, right? It's not a super powerful, it wasn't a super powerful creature. Let's see, we'll pull up the knight here. So they fought the knight, and the knight getting 2 attacks, +3 for a D8, rolling 5s and 6s, was knocking characters down with single hits, right? It was like a D8. And so this is a thing to understand, like on a D8, like a creature that has a D8 for damage. In D&D, we don't think much about a D8, right? A single D8 is like, oh no, that's like a longsword attack, right? In fact, we do like a D8 +3, right? You add your strength bonus to it. So it's not uncommon for a first level character or even a monster to have like a D8 +2 or D8 +3. But the hit points that the characters have can fluctuate between like 2 and 15 or 2 and like 12 because they roll like D6s. So they have an average of 7, which means you have like a 1 in 4 chance of knocking them down on a single hit. And some cases, if their hit points are lower, and we had one character who has 2 hit points. They rolled a 1 and then they rolled another 1. So they have 2 hit points at second level, which means their chance are 7 out of 8 that they're going to get knocked out with a single hit. Because if you roll a 2 on the damage die, you're going to knock them down. A 1, the only if you roll a 1 do they stay standing. So it's really brutal, right? We've been playing with it's not really a house, it's kind of a house rule because the game doesn't have a definition for it, but my house rule that essentially anytime you take damage when you're down, you lose 1 round worth of your death roll. So the way that dying works is that when you drop to 0, the next time it's your turn, you roll a d4, and that's how many rounds you have until you die. And my thing was, if you take damage while you're down, it reduces that further. So if you only roll a 1 and then you take damage, you're dead. And that's actually what happened to one of the characters. I did talk to the players. I said, maybe that's kind of arbitrary enough that it would be better that I don't roll the death rounds for them. And the player said, no, we want you to roll it and not tell us. That's scarier. And I'm like, oh, okay. If you guys want that, then I think what I will do is when it happens, I will ask the player, do you want to roll or do you want me to roll and not tell you? And then they can make the choice of knowing that knowledge or not. So I think that works. But that night, so they cast sleep. It was a knight and 2 bandits and then the other character. And they cast sleep and knocked down the 2 bandits, and they went to sleep. And they needed that because I think they'd have gotten killed if they hadn't. But they couldn't put the knight to sleep because she was too high a level, because the sleep doesn't affect creatures below a certain level. And the knight just started walking around knocking people down. And they eventually killed her. And they met a new NPC, Jupiter Wormhood, who is a scout of Titania from the Fae. And they learned from Jupiter that Titania believes that the world is gone. They learned all of this, that Jupiter told them, hey, here's what's going on. The whole situation is that Kytheros, the Lord of Time, thinks that the Gloaming is a lost cause. Again, we're getting to Loki kind of stuff here, right? The Kytheros, the Lord of Time, thinks that the Gloaming is a lost cause. And so he's already said, Almazat, my child Almazat, who's there to destroy these worlds that have gone bad, they've gone wonky. Almazat's, the devourer of fallen world, should go devour it. So Almazat says, okay, I will devour this world and I will add it to my world of marrow, where all of the dead worlds go. The pieces of the dead worlds, after they are digested by Almazat's, go to the marrow. And I will send my herald, Unduluk the Marrow Fiend, who will begin to prepare the world for its destruction. So that has all taken place. Titania, the Fae Queen, says, oh, there's still like beautiful things there. There's artifacts and there's beautiful things left in the Gloaming, we should send scouts out to go get these artifacts before the world is devoured. And then, we will go. And then, we'll take those artifacts and then the world will be devoured and it'll be fine. But Titania believes the world is not savable as well. Now, the reason why the reason why Kytheros believes that the world has gone bad is because it has been cursed by Mugdulblub. And the knights believe if they can eliminate Mugdulblub from the world, that will convince Kytheros that maybe the world doesn't have to be destroyed. But by that point, and this is where I get into some secrets. So this is I've got a lot of like lore, right? This is a lot of like, fairy tale lore, religious kind of things, great big sort of gods and demons and stuff that are sort of ruling the world, these great big pieces. And it's like, what can a bunch of people with 2 hit points do in this situation? And that's a good question. I really don't know where it's going to go. So anyway, they were like, wow, talking to you is a real downer, because basically Titania and any of the followers of Titania, they think the world is already doomed. And they don't think it's savable. So their thought is, hey, we're just going to collect, there's a bunch of beautiful Fae-ish artifacts here. We're going to collect those and we're going to take those to the realm of the Fae, the realm of the fairies. And that way those artifacts will be preserved while Unduluk devours the rest of the, Unduluk and Kytheros. Yeah, Unduluk and Almazotz are going to devour the whole rest of the world. So they met her. Then they traveled through the lands. I can't remember if there was any interesting encounters that they came to along the way. Nothing jumps out at me as any encounters that they had. And then they got their way to Bittermold Keep, and that is where we are beginning. And then they made their way into Bittermold Keep. We have my owlbear map here. We're using the circle so that one of the characters has the view, and a bunch of bandits attacked them. Probably cursed bandits, 6 cursed bandits. I rolled a die and it was 6 cursed bandits. So we're going to see how that's going to go. And that's the strong start for today's game. So that's how things are happening in the Gloaming. Let me bring up a new template. I am using Notion to do my campaign planning. If you want to learn more about Notion, you can find out more in the show notes. And we have 15 October. The Gloaming. Our strong start, we just jumped right to the strong. I know you're supposed to do characters, but I don't even know who the characters are. But I guess we can do the characters. We can take a look here. So the characters are so ephemeral because they die so much. So we have Daisy. Daisy is a goblin rogue who is just trying to figure out what's going on in the world. We have Gim is a fallen member of the Knights of St. Yidris. We have Finil, who is a wizard who just started getting his memories back. He had amnesia, but he started to get his memories back because it turned out that Drusilla had captured his memories and was using him to go find things, and may have been doing so for many years. We have Varro. Varro is a former bandit who followed the Red Thorn bandits and is now joined with the characters to try to stop what's going on. Varro has been cursed. I think a bunch of people have been cursed. Daisy, being a goblin, tried to wake people up by biting them on the ear and then ended up getting infected with Mugdulblub's curse because of biting somebody who was infected. So I think we have 3 members of the 5 that are cursed. Morrigan is the daughter of a witch who was burned by the Knights of St. Yidris. And I think that those are our characters. So yeah, they're all in Mugdulblub's Keep and they're just about to fight some bandits. Let's give the bandits a cool name. There's the Shadowdark book. I want to try to use the Shadowdark book as much as I can. Rival Crawlers. Do they have a name? Yeah, here we go. Right? Oh, get my D20. They are called the Thundering 10. The Thundering Dawn. And they're known for 12. They're frenzied admirers. So the Thundering Dawn fighting the Thundering. They're like a rock group of delvers. All of them cursed. What if they were all like the Rolling Stones? We'll model them after the Rolling Stones. I've been listening to the Stones because of their new album, Hackney Diamonds. And I think we will model them after the Rolling Stones. Plus, Lady Gaga, Stevie Wonder, and who's the 6th? Elton John. Those names aren't going to work. I'll have to come up with better names than those. But let's see. Let's give them some names. So we have Jaeger. Romewood, Heath, Regard, Lady Grace, Lord of Wonder, and the Elder John. There we go. There's some fun names. So let's see. We can do a secret and clue. The Thundering Dawn has traveled to many locations in the land. They got the curse, though. It's broken their minds. So it was going to start off as a battle, but it might not. See, the hard part is like suddenly if you get 6 new allies, you got 6 other characters. I think that spending too much time in Bittermold Keep has caused their irrevocable corruption. We don't really have to worry about scenes. We're going to dump scenes today. Just focus on our secrets and clues. I think it would be interesting if they learned about a couple of other locations with notable treasure that the Thundering Dawn knew about. So let's go to our cursed scroll, come up with some other interesting locations. The marker stones, so that could be one. Between the ruined watchtower and what's the name of the town? Damn it. I forget. Wardenwood has tombs containing valuable treasure. That is one. I don't think their troll cave is particularly interesting. The barrow mounds are at 910. We can just grab this and drop it right in. East of Wardenwood, south along the eastern road, dozens of hills, tombs of ancient denizens of the forest. That's a good one. Skip Marin's Hold. Meyer Castle Ruins they already know about. 1401 is where? Oh, far to the northeast. Toad Pond. Karen leads a path. Ancient treasures of the fairies lie buried in the cairn. That's good enough. So those might be 3 notes that the Thundering Dawn, again, we don't tie our secrets and clues directly to things, but in this case, like we know that they're going to get it. And that might be in the notes that one of them, Elder John, might, for example, might have had something like that. So we know what our strong start is, but now we need to dive deep into the hideous halls of Mugdulblub. Fissure in the caverns below Bittermold Keep bubbled and grew, spewing forth a pool of muttering madness. This primordial ooze, Mugdulblub, drove the Bittermold family who lived into the keep to insanity. Now the ooze's petitioners zealously feed and protect it, warring with each other for their new patron's favor. So we could have a new cult, of course, the Bittermold cult. I would just say cult of Mugdulblub. Hopes to spread the curse of Mugdulblub to the far reaches of the Gloaming in order to make it the ooze Mugdulblub's, in order to make it Mugdulblub's realm. They believe they can defeat Kytheros or Kytheros and Unduluk. They do not fear the children of Kytheros. Is Kytheros the time guy? I forgot. Because it's Kytheros and who's the other guy? I suck. I can't remember things. Almazat. All right. That helps us. So let's look at the map. And let's kind of quickly roll through the locations to get a good idea of what's going on in this place. Entry hall. There's a secret door to the south. There's a memorial chamber. I think they've already seen that. They're in the memorial chamber now. Oh, and one of the characters got stuck in the quicksand. There are howlers. Howlers from Area 4 investigate. There's a secret realm with a pipe organ. If you play something grim, you get experience. If you play something happy, you trigger the trap. That's pretty funny. Child-sized, bare feet, scraggly coyote pelt cloaks, jabbering and gnawing raw catfish around a campfire. 12 of them. These are howlers. Gordok Breek saw visions of Mugdulblub after drinking algae-laced pond water. And they're facing the bitter molds. They don't like it. Is there no stat block for howlers? There must be a stat block for howlers. There's a howler. Level 1, 5 hit points. Club or slings. And they attack in a mob. Okay. And they're making quite a cacophony. Delusional self-important visions about Mugdulblub's desires. He's willing to make alliances. Compass Rose Hall is area 5. Where's area 5? That's down southwest. Ooh, a +1 dagger. Wrath. Deals 1d100 damage to anyone who tries to take it from previous possessor, dead or alive. Wrath Bolt. Oh. How do you get a hold of it? I mean, it's cool because it's a +1 dagger, but is there a way to get it? Is there a way to possess it without possessing it? You know, anyone who tries to take it from previous possessor who's dead or alive, you take a d100 damage. Is there any way to acquire this thing? Or are you better just leaving it on the ground? I don't know. Somebody might die. Such is life. Ashes Chamber, 6. Glass Bowl. Rime over the surface. Dozens of teeth and blue pearl. Removing pearl causes teeth and ash to knit into a skeleton that serves the pearl holder. Oh, that's cool. You get yourself a skeleton. Burrow holes. 3 ichor oozes. You can get a diabolical treasure or an ichor ooze. That's on area 7. Oh, that's far. Okay. Ancient fountains, area 8. Fountains in the alcoves. Pearl fountain. You get a mutant. Bas relief, runny and distorted. Many-fingered man atop Bittermold Keep drops a heart-shaped stone into its mouth. I don't know how you'd figure out this sulfuric water if you pour it into Reginald Bittermold's mouth. Maybe there's something there. Howler guards, 9. North skeleton guards. Doesn't say how many. 3. There it does. It totally says how many. And they protect the non-Bittermolds. Meteorite room, area 12. You get possessed by a demon. Starry void on interior lid. 20 iridescent meteorite chunks worth 20 gold. That's a lot. 20 times 30. Was that 600 gold? Oh, but for each one you pick up, the gravity gets more. Ah. Stalactite cavern, 13. Dangling crowded wet sound. The gold catfish. That's kind of fun. Answers questions for gold. Cool. Steaming stalagmites. Resonant cave. Tar bats. This is really a funhouse dungeon, isn't it? Time flux chamber, 17. Stone turns in frost with bubbles. By the way, I think Kelsey has a video where she talks all about Bittermold Keep. If one was to run this like me, one should have watched that video, which I didn't, but I think it's probably worth watching. I like the time flux chamber. This probably want to tie it to Kytheros, I think. Old shrine to Kytheros or something. That's cool. Gold hummingbird charm. Empty prison cell. Mugdulblub will dissolve all. Jellified remains. Howler prisons. 21. So we have creatures that are called bitter molds. Let's take a look at them. They seem to be important between you have sort of 2 groups. Staring stooped human that scuttles along pale wet skin. Level 1. So these are like people that have been converted. Half damage from stabbing weapons because they're all, yeah. So these are my zombies that I ran before. But these are more pure. They still have memories. Mugdulblub's Hall. Starry Pool. Telepathic primordial ooze of eldritch power. It must dissolve and incorporate all material. This is upon the weak until only Mugdulblub remains. Needs a steady diet of material to dissolve. It bestows favor upon those who bring it the most material of the highest novelty. It's bored of catfish, humanoids, stone, and refuse. Grants a boon to those who it favors. Of course, as it grows, the more Kytheros believes that Kytheros believes that the world should be destroyed. And sends Almazat to do it. You can face a mutant catfish. Illusory Wall, 24. The Bittermold Family Tomb. Wow, grants owner immunity to fire, +2 strength, +2 charisma. And the enmity of the Dralic, Zorku, who wants it back. Water from the obsidian fountain makes Reginald cough up the ruby. How would you know that? That's tricky. Tooth Pillar. Use a great big mutant pillar with teeth. Bittermold Hovels. 15 Bittermolds praising Mugdulblub. Makes them hostile. This is funny. They remind me of the Darrow that I just ran in Scarlet Citadel. The Shrine to Mugdulblub. Ooh, you can drink humanoid soup and get 1d4 hit points back. Who's going to do that? Globriella. Plogrina. Central Cavern. So you have these like different factions. The mutant catfish, the Bittermolds, and the Howlers are all kind of at each other. And that is it. So, what have I learned? I guess we can bring up some secrets. 3 factions vie for power in Bittermold Keep. The Bittermold, the Halfling Howlers, and the Mutant Catfish all seek the blessing of their deity, Bittermold. Not Bittermold. Mugdulblub themselves resides here in Bittermold Keep. It has come. Glorious day. Mugdulblub wants the strong to devour the weak until none remain. Only Mugdulblub's body contains the pure source required to create the cure for Mugdulblub's curse. Mugdulblub will give a piece of themselves, to the one who brings it the brain of any other secrets that we've got down here. A mother and daughter reside down here who know the lore of Mugdulblub. And where are they? They're Plugrina and Globriella. Globriella is in area 21. Plugrina is in 29. They want the catfish and the howlers destroyed. They're considered what? Daughters of Mugdulblub by the Bittermold. My fantastic locations don't really matter because we're only in the one place. We're just going to dump this whole thing. Keep my notes simple. And NPCs, we have the Remnant of Memnon, Haldren, Juniper. Yeah, all these don't really matter too. Drusilla is dead, so we can pull her off the current list. We'll see who they meet now. Treasure will roll, monsters we got in the book. So we're all set. This is one of those cases where you really don't have to do a lot of the steps because the adventure's got it all. It's got creatures. It's got the location. The secrets and clues are still important. I think strong starts and secrets and clues together almost always are valuable. Those are valuable. Where's the game going to start and what can the characters learn? And then if you've got an adventure like this one, that's pretty easy to kind of run as is. You really don't have to do a lot of prep for it. You don't have to put a lot in your notes. So that works out well. And I think we will end right there. Friends, I want to thank you all for hanging out with me today while I prepared for my Shadowdark Gloaming game. If you enjoyed this show and you want more stuff like this, the best way to see the stuff that I do is to subscribe to the Sly Flourish newsletter. It is absolutely free to subscribe. You get a free adventure generator PDF for subscribing, and you get a weekly RPG article sent directly to your inbox. You can also support me directly on Patreon. Access to a dedicated Discord server, a monthly Q&A, City of Arches sourcebook, Uncovered Secrets Volume 1 and 2, a whole bunch of tools to help you run your games, just tons and tons of stuff you get for being a patron. It's a really, really good deal. You can find a link to that in the show notes, and you can pick up any of my books, including Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, The Lazy DM's Companion, The Lazy DM's Workbook, The Fantastic Adventures and Lairs and Locations, Runes of the Grundleroot, and currently the digital version of Forge of Foes. The physical version will be there in a couple of weeks. So thank you all very much. Have a great week. I will see you next week. Take care and get out there and play an RPG.